Anybody on?
All right, let's,
No.
Yeah.
let's start with the pledge, folks. Anybody else? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for
Always say that.
Albrecht.
Here.
Aslo. Here. Day.
Here.
Moretti. Here. Serrano.
Here.
Warnbeck.
Here.
Bowman.
All right, mission statement, please. Sure.
Those are for those watching at home. The Herkimer County Industrial Development Agency delivers economic incentives to businesses and industry to diversify and strengthen industry to diversify and strengthen Herkimer County's tax base. Sorry. And enhance community vitality by supporting job creation, business and industrial development, and community revitalization. We strive to develop the local economy in an organized, sustainable, and environmentally beneficial manner. No, I shouldn't. There's enough squirrels running around there.
Okay, item number 4, the minutes are on page 1 through 6. They can send you ahead of time. Are there any additions, corrections, deletions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept. And second. Mike, discussion. Okay, right. Opposed, nay. Carried. Item number 5, your financial reports, page 714. Jenny, you want to walk us through that? Any questions?
Victoria, nobody's on.
No.
We're in a lot of trouble, people. This is my last day. I have a new house in Cancun and several million in the bank, but the IDA agency's hurt.
Need anybody to carry your luggage?
I actually do, John. Oh, it's you. Oh, never mind. Yes, you are. Peace lover. No, everything is on track. You know, I mean, we're start of a new budget. Last year, we did very well. You know, I can't believe it's the end of January already. You know, there'll be a lot of new things coming in this year that we're already aware of. But we ended out the year very strong as always. And yeah, everything, you know, everybody's paying who's supposed to be paying, and you know, we're in very good financial shape.
You well know some years ago, it was not that way.
It was not, you know, it was in the red, I believe, when I started.
We became a collection agency.
Motion to accept, or any other questions? Motion to accept financial. Tim, second, Corey, discussion. All in favor, aye. Opposed. Let's go to our grants and.
Just one other thing before we do, Jim, just so everybody can see the pilots in here as well on page 14. Just gives everybody a good idea on what they can see. You know, as far as who's paying pilots and when they end and all of that. It lets you see that we do have still responsibilities to the projects, even though we're pretty much complete with the our side of it. It's just the monitoring of it. It's to make sure we get the proper taxes in and just distribute them to the proper different towns, villages, city, and the school district. So there is a lot to it that goes into it, and I just wanted everybody to be part of that. So thank you.
Item 6, CARES grant.
Well, before Victoria gets into the two that are on here as far as the applications, there is some financial questions required or asked from the committee on both of these, and I was hoping that we could probably push these off to executive session since it does have to deal with finances, Tommy. Sure. So if it's okay with the board, I'm going to move both Four Seasons Tire and Griffey's into executive session. If it's okay. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Victoria, can you give me a line with the CARES grant?
Just
I'm
in
sorry.
general.
The truck outside, I apologize. So I am continuing to work with several businesses on their grant applications. As people inquire about the program, I do reach out to the state. So anything that is presented to me is passed through the state. I do get email confirmation from them saying that, yes, I've reviewed this and yes, this is okay to move forward. So I am continuing the process with these two, as well as two others that are working with the Small Business Development Center currently to hopefully move them to the next step as well.
Questions?
I mean, I know we're gonna go into executive session, but is there just a quick summary of what the CARES Act encompasses? I mean, guidelines for you, for us?
So any and everything that is COVID related, so that can be tangible or non-tangible. So it could be anything from equipment, electronics, moving customers around. So changing the layout of the business to better keep people social distance. And then you have the non-tangible items such as payroll, rent, utilities, those types of expenses that were incurred during COVID that businesses are struggling to recover from that. So anything that can help them recover and make them more resilient to any type of infectious disease in the future.
When does it go? When it's gone, or is it-
We have until June of this year to get rid of this money. We've talked about the possibility of an extension, but we're not to that point of making a decision if we need to request that or not.
If we don't use it.
Well,
We would have a discussion with Homes and Community Renewal, and they have been open to extending it. But we would have to have that conversation.
we're pretty good at where we're at now, that if all of them that we have in house, we'll be using up the entire amount of money. So if there was any construction, which is about 400,
We
and
get 70 grand or whatever.
we get so
Some
much
of
for
it is
administration.
and delivery. For my time, our time to work with the businesses.
Is it a percentage of the grant that you get up to 75,000? In other words, if we approve 50,000, would you get a certain percentage of that?
It's set already in the budget for it, so the overall.
So one of the things, go ahead, Lauren, I'm sorry.
4 applicants?
I have 4 applicants now, these 2, and there are 2 more working with the Small Business Development Center. I have 1 more that I'm working with to push towards the Small Business Development Center. That's where we're at.
So like, if there's a construction opportunity, then they have to follow Davis-Bacon, and they also have to go through the NEPA process, which is harder than the seeker, a lot more costly, so we've been trying to steer them away from that. Some of the applicants, we just couldn't really reach with COVID. We tried. The Small Business Development Center that's been working on CARES opportunities for a long time, that's why we partnered with them, at no cost for them to help us work with the applicant to make sure their review was good. But I can honestly say that for one application, we probably talked to Housing and Community Renewal 20 times. I mean, it's a back and forth because we don't want to waste anybody's time. I mean, and we don't consider it a waste of our time either, because this is money that's out there and we're going to try to do what we can do to help out the communities. This is by far the most intricate, the most work, the most anything grant that we've done to date. I mean, we have 500,000 from EPA and it's nothing compared to this. So,
And it is a higher dollar value per job added. Normally with economic development projects, it's 15,000 per job. This is 85 per job. That's a lot per position to be added. And the Homes and Community Renewal is worth that.
I just had a quick question. I remember the really comprehensive Facebook and LinkedIn posts, and it had a good compilation of, the program outline qualifications and whatnot. What's a general way that these small businesses have found out about this program or come to us through the SBDC or?
Most of them reach out to us just from our initial post back in the fall, from when Aaron put it on our social media. We haven't had to continue to post it because of people that have worked with me in the past with the micro enterprise or word of mouth. I've had someone call me and say, hey, someone told me about this grant opportunity. Can you help me? So just word of mouth. And then those initial posts, we really have not had to continue to put it out there.
and John, the other application that you sent in, it wasn't an application for this grant. It was actually an application for Restore New York.
Right.
I didn't see it on my phone, but when I looked at it this morning, again, I got a better handle on it. We probably don't have money through this program to help them right now through this program. I'm not sure how they're gonna make out with this store.
Those are just people that I know, not, they called me and asked me, and they said that Butler was involved in it. And I remember we talked about Newport Main Street, getting sewers in it. I said, send it to me and I'll just give it to John and Victoria.
Yeah,
If
so,
there's
so that's
some-
it.
Maybe you can help them steer them somewhere else.
Well, they've submitted it, which is a good thing to do. In Newport, we cannot put sewers, it's some type of septic system.
Okay.
And we really have to look where that can go. We were concerned because, not concerned, but they kind of want to pump it up to where the school is. And we thought, geez, we want to try to market that school, but we brought in a structural and I finally got to go through it as well. It cannot be saved. So that school will be coming down somehow. So they might be able to use that yard for a raised bed, leach field, all kinds of things for septic type purposes. So that's part of the study that we're doing. I think we have a call tomorrow morning on that to move that ahead. I don't personally believe if this building cannot get a good septic system or something in place that'll work, that it's not gonna happen.
Were you aware of that project?
Yes,
Probably everybody knows what I'm talking about, but were you aware of that
but
project?
yeah, and
I
it's
think
it's
we
public
talked.
information.
Sure.
Yeah, Dink and Dirt there wanna expand and they wanna buy, or they did buy a corner building in Newport, the oldest one there. It's all that white stone. It's very cool looking.
Yeah.
But it's built on top of everybody else. There's no sewer in that community. There's no septic in that right now. I don't know what you could really do with it. Their process requires a lot of water, a lot of cleaning, water, everything else. You know, I'm not saying they water down the foods, but you know, there's
I wasn't gonna say that.
there's a lot of water needed to clean it, so. But, no, the restore money, there's a ton of it out there. We were fortunate enough with, Dual Fold and Ilion. And they didn't get as many applications as they thought the first round, so. But the projects have to be close to being ready, and they're ready at their project because they have the money that they never had somewhat. But it's gonna hurt them if they try to do much of anything because of no way to get rid of their waste.
Is there any way that when you get a minute, can you respond to me, like what you just said?
Yeah, probably not. No, I don't want it in writing. Of course I will, Jen.
So they already purchased the building?
They already did. There's no
Now
but
they're in it.
fours anymore. I know. I try to tell people, we gotta take a step back.
Well, not just that for money, but just the due diligence. I don't know if they're looking to produce there.
Well, even if we did some kind of studies, even with EPA or anything, even to do a basic phase one, we would have been able to get them some additional funding for some things. But there's no but for it anymore. They bought it. So that's the hard thing about these things. Everything is, we'll move ahead, but for this, and then this grant will help with that, so. But
Yeah.
back to the CARES money, like, for example, a company like in, say, in cheese manufacturing, like what you do, Alana, and, all of a sudden, because of COVID, you see that a powdered cheese is now needed, and you never did that before. That money can help you get into that because of during the CARES, that's what happened. So that's what we're seeing too with the manufacturer and some other things. So that's the way it comes. So it's a good grant, but it's a very hard grant, and we thought we were good, remember, and then she sends back something else. But they're not mean at all. I mean, the state, and it's federal money, so they have to watch how they spend it too. Mostly everything we get through housing and community renewal is federal money that's through the state.
Did they expand it to include payroll?
It
has
was
been.
expanded to that. When we initially wrote the program out, it was only for machinery and equipment
Yeah.
and things like that. So it was expanded to include those other items.
How does this PPE program, I hear it advertised for businesses of more than 4 people. How does that apply to some of the businesses?
It doesn't apply to us. We don't get involved in that. We see
No,
some
but
of the
like
other areas.
businesses that are looking for money for their payroll. I mean, obviously, Ricky's or Four Seasons, that's also a program bill.
Which they could talk with their accounting firm about or something, or their bank. That was something we, thank God, didn't have to or want to go down that path. So there's a lot more to that than what we're.
Anyone else? Victoria, you good with that? Okay, you want to move on right to the 222?
Sure. I do have an application for that waiting, in the work. The equipment that he's looking to install cannot be done until the springtime. So we're holding off on that for another month or so until the applicant is ready to make that purchase and install the equipment, looking for a door at a farm store. Otherwise, with that, I did submit the reporting for 2022 on that, so annually that's due. That was submitted a couple of weeks back. We have assisted 24 businesses with $44,000 in grants and $44,000 in loans throughout the life of the program so far.
Any questions for Victoria? All right, let's go to monthly updates with Aaron.
Okay, so I posted a featured business last week. It was Heel Path Brewing. I talked about the micro enterprise grant we gave them a couple of years ago.
So here we go. We're dealing with distilleries and microbreweries, John.
I didn't go into the. That's when they got the kitchen.
Yeah, some of the kitchen stuff, yeah.
For the Brownfield Developer Summit, I edited the profile sheets we used last year and then created a new one for Main Street and Herkimer.
So this year, our Brownfield Conference will be held in Herkimer. Last year was held at Baltimore Governor Community College, this year at Herkimer College. We've already doubled the amount of sponsorship money, which is very cool. Hoping to some of my left shortly. And then other people have stepped up really and taken a big jump into that. Another thing that we're really going to tie into this, because it is Herkimer County, we're going to tie in the Main Street BOA grant. So one of the sessions will be on the BOA Main Street. So it'll get people who come from pretty much all over the Northeast for this to come and take a look at what a BOA project is and where it actually is going to work out for us. And these profile sheets truly do help us not only in what we're doing for the conference, but what we're doing when we try to market or talk about the properties too. And everybody's looks the same. So when you go to the other 5 counties, all of their profile sheets have the same look to them. We wanted them to be uniform.
I put packets together for John for different meetings I went to over the past week or two.
So in our NYSERDA meeting, it was quite interesting. I'll talk about that a little bit more in depth and at the end of our meeting here. And Aaron also helped us put together the presentation that we gave to the statewide electeds that we met with yesterday. Myself, Jimmy, and Tim met with Smullen, Miller, Walzak, and Griffo. And it was an interesting meeting, and we'll talk about that too once again at the end. But back in the day, we had none of these renderings, drawings, different things to help us really promote the county. So a lot of this, the way that we hand it out now, you can see when we give it to the different people, the expression that, oh, these guys are for real. So it's very good.
Yesterday we got an email from Dave Warner. He sent a bunch of pictures of the business parks with snow, which I thought looked really good.
So when we're attracting CEOs that like to ski, we like to send them pictures with snow on them. Other than that, I'm not a big fan, but we wanted to have pictures of the park. Dave Warner's drone and pitched, and the way he can take pictures in movies is just unbelievable. He just has such great equipment and very, very good, and he supports us really well. So
Where's he out of, John?
he's in Little Falls. Yeah, he's a good man. He's very reasonable in price, really does get out there quick. So when we need some things, and you know, it's easier for us to have someone like him do it for us too.
That's it, Aaron? Very good. Let's go to item number 9, Skyler Business Park. There's a couple items there. John, Blanco.
Oh, yeah. Just more requests for change notices, or really not change notices, things that we had to add in here for the park. The ductile iron purchase, and then the some additional sections of piping and things that cross through the culverts. And as they move along. So I'll need approval on both 7 and 8. You can see the change order numbers are at the top of the page. One thing that I will note is that we received a quote from Mohawk Valley Water Authority for a certain amount of pipe for this at a certain cost. We signed a deal with them, and then when it came back and we received the final, it was increased. And so Dan Polzinski and Pat Besher are working on that right now. We haven't paid anything on it. We want to see where that goes from there. Also, Landco reached out. There's still a shortage of getting fire hydrants, which I wasn't aware of. And they agreed, the water authority agreed to give us so many, and then Landco will take care of the replacement of paying them. That's not our responsibility. Just in case anybody asks, but you get a chance to go to the park. It's very cool. It's being plowed. There's now fire hydrants all over, stop signs and all kinds of cool stuff.
So the 8-inch ductile was $45,000.
Yep.
It just seems odd that it's an even number. I mean, is it just a number that they had, or is it?
No, we get actuals and it's 1,000 feet and they get it come in. The 1,000 feet were the ones to run, since they were out there, they even gave us a better deal. Well, this includes, this is purchase, and I think that also included the installation, if I'm not mistaken, because they didn't change that price, and they were out there, so it was easier for them to do road C, which I can't, what's his name? Dunbar Drive. So that's why that's at that, so.
So this was for the expansion of the park. It wasn't anything that just was an oversight or anything. This was due to the expansion, right?
Well, I don't know what
I mean, I
you
know-
mean by an oversight. We only really were having them do road B to start with, because that's all the ductile iron that was available. And we couldn't get any additional one in. And then as time freed up and projects got delayed, the yards were able to say, hey, I still have this. They pushed it off.
I got it.
So many of them had projects that they thought they'd be able to do in the fall. What's good about our project is it's not interfering with anything else right now, because I'm Orange Crush or Bloom or whatever the hell we're gonna call them, Home Depot. They've stopped right now because they put their foundation in, but they don't have the building. So that's good, because then there's no other traffic and we're doing all of this piping, so.
Okay.
So that's for 7, and then 8 is just some additional things to get under the pipe, the culverts and all that good stuff.
I need a motion to accept that change order. Tim, second. John Storano, any discussion? Okay, right. Any opposed? Great. Delta Engineering, then?
Yeah, so Delta for the water tank, we need to do geo tech there to see where that is. It did have an increase in price. Stacy, what's the final price that they're looking for? 85, or is it?
Well,
Oh yeah, 12,000. I'm sorry. So 12,000. So they'll go into that. We're trying to put the tank after we had our last meetings, and we'll talk about that later. But when we had our last meetings about where we believe the water tank should go and the pressure that we need for fire suppression, the additional things that we've learned. So we're trying to go up the hill. If you pulled into the new Penn Dodge Drive, you got almost to where the cul-de-sac is. If you took a left there and went up, we're trying to put it up in there as high as we can in order to minimize on the height of the tank. So we're looking at a 300,000 gallon tank, and we're doing the geotechnical for that. However, there's always moving parts here. We have a Project Jefferson hasn't given us their requirements yet for fire suppression. I had a conversation with him this week, and he thought they might not go with water suppression because of what they do, and he'll know more. But if they do go water, and we can support them by adding another 100,000 gallons to a 400,000, making a 400,000 gallon tank, we would probably go that route. So we're trying to juggle when they can go do the geotech. They do the geotech based on the weight, estimated weight. Of course, the estimated weight will change if it goes from 300,000 to 400,000. So we're trying to figure all that out right now. The other problem is this tank is also needed for us to move ahead with the water authority for anything to finish up in the park. So we have to have this done in order for Project Bloom to be finished as well. So even though they're putting in their own fire suppression tank, we still need this according to the Mohawk Valley Water Authority. So it's a big juggle act right now. Hopefully, we'll know more by the end of next week, so we can definitely at least do what we need for Geotech and how we can best get this moving ahead and fast as well. And if no one's confused on that, help me out.
Question conservatively though, if you do, say do a 400,000 gallon tank, just, as a conservative approach, how do you think is the cost difference?
It shouldn't be too bad. The 300,000 gallon tank was like $180,000. So probably around 250, maybe say. It depends on the elevation we have to put it to. If we can ground mount it, we'll be good, but I'm assuming we're gonna have to go up a little bit, aren't you? Not too bad though, because it goes up a hill there. So it's really hard to say right now, so we know where we can put it. The last park tenant that we're working on, that big large one, I had another meeting with them yesterday. We'll get more in depth in that too later on. But they don't want water for fire suppression either.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's why, but however, from what we're looking at too, we have two things in mind that we most likely will be able, this tank where we place it. If we do purchase any other properties in Schuyler, this is possibly a good way to support it as well. We can't get a 100% answer on that, but we're moving towards that. This might do it too for there.
So if I understand it correctly, would just considering putting in a 400,000 gallon tank, avoid having it be a roll of the dice, so to speak, with Project Jefferson? No, okay.
Yeah, that's a sad thing too, because when I talked to them the other day too, their building went from 100,000 square foot to 160,000 square feet.
Okay, so
So
it could
it's-
even, okay.
And some of that area might not require anything, the way that it's set up. So, yeah, it's no, but Dan Falzinski will meet with their engineer as soon as we get the green light. So that way we can determine the best route for that suppression. And this might be enough for them too, depending upon the amount of pressure and the amount of water that we have to supply to them over a period of time. So more things about water than another one.
Besides, on Jefferson, in theory, will this. Like, oh, okay.
We don't know that. It's an amazing story.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay, so there's an increase there about $3,500 we're looking. So we need a motion to accept that change. Brown, second, and discussion. Okay, live. All right. Any opposed to any, please. Item 10, will be beautiful. Yeah, we're authorizing resolution. Any questions there? Tony. Tony, what's your report?
Very quickly after Project Bloom, Orange Crush, AKA Home Depot, had started construction and got into ordering. They realized their costs went up significantly. They came back, amended application because the financial assistance was over 100,000. We had to do another public hearing, and we now need to authorize it so they could get their sales tax.
In a nutshell.
That was fantastic.
See,
I would vote yes on that if
I
I
need a motion. Mike, second, Tim, discussion. All in favor, aye. Any opposed, nay.
John, they were probably closing on their financing.
I don't want to hold them up with the tank, so we're gonna try to, I have a call with them tomorrow afternoon, so we'll see where they are. Now, once again with them too, with the building itself, that metal, they say it's doing it at a certain time. You don't know. You really don't know because of the way everything is today.
So that's passed, item 11, Delta Engineers, there's a impact study, page 47 to 49. Let's do that, John.
Sure, so this is the other property, we have an opportunity that we've been looking at. We needed to get everything in place before further conversations with the VOT. We did a traffic study for down on those corners, roughly the parcel, and we wanted to have everything done, so I'm looking for you all to, we discussed it, but we didn't vote on it the last time, we didn't have the numbers, but here we're need to vote on it. The traffic study is done, everything's in place. It's just setting up the times with DOT and, potential, I don't know, potential heavier discussions. We'll need to get into that a little bit further.
In your opinion, do you think this is the only study required?
In my opinion, yes. But as we have seen and we will discuss, changes on the weather and the temperature outside. Right, Jim?
Correct. So we need to, ratify this. Motion for it. Second one, discussion. On favor, aye. Page 12.
Page 12.
Page 12. Right. Woodhill Development, World Corps.
So we've been working on this for quite a while, and I thank Tony for really digging into it because it wasn't an easy thing. One of the things that happened during COVID was the supply chain, which we're all aware of, and getting things that you needed to continue your projects. And I mean, Wilcor didn't stop. They kept pushing through it, trying to get everything they could to finish their project. And it came in past the time that we had allotted for them for their sales tax exemption. Now, the orders were in place long prior to the end of theirs, and Tony did some research, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tony, but I appreciate this, and I think this is the way we needed to go for Wilcor, and if anybody else had come to us for this. So I highly recommend we do this. This is something that benefits that company who has really built more routes and built some additional space in our business park.
No, go ahead.
No, it's you.
Okay, all right. Motion, please. Any second, Mike, discussion. On favor, aye. Any opposed, nay.
We killed a lot of trees for this.
Item 13, Genesis Group sponsorship opportunities. Page 70.
So Genesis has been very supportive of a lot of different things that we've done in the community. I was approached by their executive director if we'd be interested in doing some type of sponsorship for Genesis. We've never done it in the past. We've seen other groups that have, including Mohawk Valley Edge and some of the other surrounding economic development partners. And we would like to see if the board has a flavor to help support and do the sponsorship for Genesis.
And those sponsorship
Listed.
levels are
Yeah.
listed.
We call them investments. So we'll call them investments.
Genesis has always been, good for both counties.
They even reach out to Madison and Anselmo too. Don't you think more too?
And their director, Ray Durso, always tries to include everybody. And I think they've done some very good things, not just because I know Ray, but they have, and they're a good group. So I would say that we should invest in them. I don't know what our budget would allow, but then we middle it and go $5,000. I don't know.
And they're very prompt too on the meetings.
Oh,
If
absolutely.
you show up late, they point it out.
Well, when he says it ends at 1 o'clock, it ends at 1 o'clock. You could be in the middle of a sentence, the meeting's over.
Yeah,
I would like to see them maybe come this way, too. We can do a meeting, an event in the town,
Yeah.
if we sponsor at that level, and I'm sure Ray would entertain that.
I could talk to them about that if that's the way you want
That's
to
a
go.
great
Do
idea.
you have any idea on what kind of event you would want them to do?
Similar to what, I don't know.
Oh, so like, I'm sorry, Jimmy, so like what you just did, have them hosted here in North County? Oh, I'll bring that up to them. That's a very good idea. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Do we know what the investments entail from the 2,500 to the 10,000?
It's like corporate sponsorships, your name's on everything. You go to those meetings,
There's,
especially when you're there a little early, you see that on the screens, all the names going through.
right, I just, 10,000 versus
You get more
2,500.
as you invest more.
Yeah.
Naturally,
It's usually described.
yeah.
Yeah, we didn't,
Curious.
I didn't dig into the weeds because I didn't know the flavor of the board, to be honest. with
What's the flavor of the board? What's your recommendation?
I like John Scarano's idea of $5,000. It makes us looked at least. It's not, we're not patron, you know, we're actually invested in what they do. And I think with what Mr. Bono said, to have something in our county, I think with that type of sponsorship, we could see that happen.
This is the main, you know. Right. Deal there, but anyway, we'll be, nice with United Minds.
Oh, yeah.
So you want to make a motion? Council Brown, for 5,000 twice. Seconds.
But you know, too, Genesis or Ray Durst is also involved with the Chamber Alliance in the Mohawk Valley, which is a lot of chambers now and a lot of other type of organizations. And Ray is very good. He always throws out the right words and the right names. It's time for maybe us to back a little bit. but
And I'll be
this is
doing
my
an
opinion.
event for them too,
Right,
at the end of the month, I think. Oh, yeah, the 27th at Hartselle. Oh, no. I don't know, it's a, I don't know. I'll let everybody know. Oh, it's the day of our next meeting on the 28th. It's a noon thing for economic development in area with Steve and they.
but that's, but he doesn't, Genesis does a lot of the meetings at Hartselle, and it's a suggestion, give us a break, and so I don't know.
I think he gets a good deal too. there.
Well, yeah. But I don't know where.
They have their designated space there as you walk into the right.
Yeah.
Okay, motion made in second. You want to approve? You take a vote.
Oh, so we're going with 5 years. But okay, that's fair.
All right, employee vacation carryover.
Yeah, it's really just for discussion. We have still trying to catch up with COVID and everything else. We have a few days and, above and beyond, and I think it's a good idea, and it doesn't over exceed any thresholds that are out there, so I just wanted people to know that we're gonna do some of the additional days of carryover for people's vacations, so they don't. lose some of those days. I don't care, so it's not gonna affect me.
Is this something that needs board approval or is that, so, okay.
Yeah, it's under the dollar amount. I just want y'all to know. They're gonna use them all at once, so they all take off at the same time, right about the ADO reporting
Yeah,
time. I
yeah.
don't blame them. I would do the
Perfect.
same thing.
Item 15, board evaluation summary, page 71, that's the.
It is the synopsis, though we are missing one. We didn't get one back, so we only have 6 in here, but that's okay. I always want to improve. I think I've said that from everyone. I don't know, I didn't see this before. I mean, I saw it in the packet yesterday, it was last night, but I would love to figure out what we can do to make these other ones better. If there's any input from anybody else that wants to submit anything or individually wants to have a conversation, I'm very happy to try to change these. These do go into the ADO, so I always want to see the best grades that we can get. I understand it can't always be 100s. So whatever we can do to add some more time. The other boards out there do have multiple meetings. So some of the IDAs out there would have a separate finance meeting ahead of time, a separate loan committee group ahead of time. If that's something you all would like to take a look at, we're happy to do that. We're here and we can do it 8 o'clock in the morning. Or at night, we could do them anytime, so we could take a look at those for more data. The problem with our agenda and the things that we have now, as Tony will testify to a lot of it, we don't get it for the 11th hour. That's the nature of keeping the projects going. Sometimes I wish it was longer. We start meeting on this agenda, we'll have a meeting with the new agenda. Today's Tuesday, probably Thursday, so we start with a new agenda on Thursday. But a lot of it's just, it's difficult to do that. And I understand sometimes that you want to see some other things, and of course we do as well too. As long as you don't hire a CEO, I'm okay with another director. So please, any input whatsoever, anything you want to do, I'm not forcing more meetings. Anybody wants to have them, I'm happy to. I think you all know you can get a hold of me anytime, and I reply anytime. So Sunday doesn't matter, so please keep that in mind. But this does get turned in.
Question. right, not agenda, no.
So with, giant deep regret and,
John, before you continue, we need a motion to accept the board composition.
Oh, yes, I need a motion to accept those evaluations. Cory, section 10, discussion. Okay, right. Opposed, nay, carried.
Thank you.
All right, John, you can send it.
and after I was told on a Friday and ruined my complete weekend, Stacy Halloran has submitted her retirement. And she will be retired. She will be here till the end of March, working till the end of March. Very excited for her. She's been in economic development for 60 years. And
60.
she started when she was 5. Hustling Girl Scout cookies.
Are you 15
Actually
yet?
brownies at the time.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's, it'll be a terrible loss, but I can't blame you. I mean, I think it's great with what you're doing. So we're gonna be looking, we're not sure the makeup of what our office will look like just yet. We'll have some discussions within the office, but we'll be definitely looking to bring somebody else on. And, work with Stacy as soon as possible. And Stacy said she'll always be available for a phone call, not necessarily an email, but a phone call.
Enjoy your return.
Thank you, thank the board.
Well, we're gonna have a shindig.
I'm sure we will.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
you guys, you're a good soldier, and very knowledgeable in what you do, and you do the best.
We're really lucky to.
Little bit.
I remember when I first started with Stacy, the first week I started, I think I came on board and said, well, I already have a vacation scheduled. It was like 2 weeks in or whatever, and so did Stacy at the same time. And the next year we took the same time off too, but all the calls got forwarded. Yeah, there definitely will never be to be able to replace, just hopefully we can support a lot of the same thing, so. But I wanted everyone to know now, not wait, and I think it's important that if anybody has ideas and individuals with accounting backgrounds and things like that, you know, we'll gladly talk to them or have some discussions, but please keep that in mind and we'll start seeing some things out there. So, through loss.
Why don't we apply for CARES payroll?
Take it out of the box.
Okay.
Okay, let's, elected officials comments. With Mark, is anybody here? Tim Leftis?
No, it's still
He's
there.
still there.
Anyone want to speak?
I just want to say, I saw in the news that the Charlestown Mall is all clean, all the hazardous material. So hopefully we'll have something going in there pretty soon.
Well, Peter, it has about a $3.4 million lien on it right now from the EPA. So we're having some meetings to see what we can do to get that removed.
Okay.
But to try to do anything with that property with that size of lien on it will be difficult.
Oh, okay.
The gentleman hasn't paid taxes on it, and it's a limbo property, so it's not taken by anybody.
Oh.
I don't know if Tony, if you heard, is he in bankruptcy or not? Have you heard anything about him in bankruptcy? So, yeah,
Got so many issues going on, I don't even know if a bankruptcy would help him.
there are signs on it. Pavia says he's trying to sell it. I don't know how.
In their wheelhouse, they allow, you could just come right, say 3.4, if they had a interested developer, they'd say, hey, we'll give you $1 million and a half. And you think it would pay, has it been done?
Without talking about negotiations online and on the recording, we can have that discussion after. It's both, but not as much in, Oneida.
All right, so
Thank you, Jim.
let's move on with project updates. John, give us.
Sure. BOA, Village of Herkimer, we're moving ahead with that BOA grant. In fact, on Friday here at 1 o'clock, we're having a meeting with Department of State, the mayor, several of us to talk about it. Also, HRP, our environmental consultants. We've talked to EPA about supporting this grant, you know, to help with the BOA. We haven't gone out to bid yet for any consultants, but this is a good kickoff meeting for us all to start getting fired up for the Village of Herkimer. 2023 Brownfield Development Summit. I mentioned that to everybody. It's April 25th and 26th. Please go to MDEDD's webpage and sign up and you can get on there. There is something for government employee. You're a member of our board. You don't have to pay if you don't want to pay. The college is hosting it. I'll be kicking off the event with the college president. That night, we are sponsoring the event at the Diamond Mines, the night of the 25th. We will have our regional head of the EPA there. We'll have some DEC people. We'll have a lot of different attorneys, consultants, brownfield developers from all over the Northeast. It will be a good 2 days and it will give us a lot of headlines. So if anything, if you can make the evening event at 6 o'clock at the Diamond Mines, that would be great. We'll be getting that out to all the legends as well and letting them know. At the February meeting, we're going to go over and review our policies and procedures. So everybody keep that in mind. We'll be sending that out for your input on those. We have been sending out board meeting calendar invites. We know that some have a few issues with that. If you can respond, please respond. If it doesn't come through on your phone or your service, let us know. But we really need to be better tracked and better understanding of who's attending our meetings. The sooner the better, so we know it. We have to make sure we have a quorum. Of course, you're all here today, which is fantastic, but we need to keep moving ahead on that. There'll be let's see, February 24th, Friday, there's a legislative breakfast. I think a lot of you attended it last year. It's up at the college. I'll be emceeing it again. We'll be asking the legislators different questions, taking questions from the crowd. Stefanik, Walzak, Smullen, Miller, Bono, and this year we're going to have the sheriff, Scott Scherer, there as well. Should be an excellent breakfast. Please sign up for that as well. As I mentioned, I'll be at that other meeting at the site down at Harts Hill Inn for Genesis. I had an excellent meeting with NYSERDA last week about other grant opportunities and financial opportunities for everything. One of the things that we do have to, that they won't support is the properties we have it on 3 municipalities that are New York Power Authority. So I'm not sure what we can do with the dual fold under NYSERDA, so we probably won't see anything there, but there's other programs that we'll be working on with them. We had a great, I would say it was a great meeting yesterday with our state representatives, Smullen, Miller, Walzak, and Griffo. So they were receptive to what we had to say. They said they wanted to work with us. We're hopefully going to find some paths to make that happen. We do have an opportunity that I'll bring up probably at the next meeting. There's some property about 2.5 acres on the right side of Ken Dodge Drive between Drive-In Road and the cul-de-sac that we own, or Pepsi that we own. We have a company interested in buying a small piece of land to do some storage on, and we'll bring that up at the next meeting, but that looks pretty good. That we'll put that in there. I didn't think we had more property to sell, but we do. Tony's working with solar people that wanted to be on that property. I don't know if you can give an update on that at all.
I provided the comment letter. I have not sent that out to the developer yet because I was pulling all the restrictions and easements that affect that property from the land records, because there's an agri-Mohawk easement that affects that I discovered going back to 1994. I should have those documents by tomorrow. I'll get out by the end of the week.
Okay.
That could impact. I was unaware of that.
Well, that probably will impact the other one too. Well,
I don't know where that easement runs, John. That's just that's the problem with it.
that's tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock.
So the project can move forward.
Yeah, this one is.
And that, I think, having it is so much.
Yeah, they usually come in and do their deed will to the public officials.
Well, they've had a couple of them up there already and in Deerfield. This one, they wanted to focus on, the IDA and a couple other groups, but not open to the general public, and it's not a transferable invitation, they had a select few for tomorrow morning. So that is tomorrow morning. And then the other ones are still going strong, the other projects that. The Clear Path, have we decided on that yet?
I've been talking to council weekly on that. He is doing everything he can because he knows that there's a drop dead date basically at the end of February. Changing gears on that note, we're going back and forth on the final documents on the Warrior Solar project. That should close next week.
Warrior's the one at the old landfill on Route 5S. That's a EDF project. So if they don't close at the end of February, the money we have in escrow, we're taking no matter what.
Read the last paragraph of the project agreements.
We're taking no matter what. No? I'm not liking that so much.
It's some of it.
Well, they're not gonna get any benefits then. The Little Falls water agreement, anything with that?
I have nothing from the city. The difficulty with that is I need to see the city's enabling legislation to see how I go about quantities, what they could sell.
Well, who did you talk to there? Anybody?
I emailed the clerk, and then we got something back from Chet Zavitsky, and then they have no electronic version of the city charter or code, and nobody's getting back.
So I'll step that up then.
I'll remind you of that in relation to.
That'll be another discussion that we'll have.
Oh, gotcha.
So, okay, so for that, and then,
John, if you have any influence down there to update their systems, you know.
We're talking to a dinosaur, but we can wait for the new mayor. to talk to her.
does seem that way.
Yes,
And then, Tony's also taking care of the sign for the park. We're going to the planning board tomorrow night. Do you think they're gonna waive the fee?
That's what I heard from Anthony.
Okay, so that'll be.
I've asked Jeff to confirm that for me.
Okay, so we have to present to the planning board for that sign. And then, Project Jefferson, you think we'll hear something for our next meeting?
Fingers crossed. More email exchanges, I guess they have no objection to our pushing back on those few things.
They asked for a lot, and we said no, you know, but you can't blame the attorneys, you know,
Don't ask, you don't get.
that's true.
Just getting back to the Skylar Business Park, has there been any update on the entrance traffic study that
We
we
talk
were?
about that first in executive session.
Yes, we can. I'm all set with updates unless you guys think of anything else. No, and then just don't forget our next meeting is Tuesday, the 28th at 8 AM.
Is there any update with,
Oh,
I have everything from Harvard Point, just getting it updated. We'll get that flipped out in 30 days or less.
where did we land?
just whatever he paid, we're paying him back.
He was in my office. It was very positive.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. He's just trying.
Yeah.
So,
You don't get.
yeah, and so that would be who was gonna take it over next. That would be discussions on contracts discussions. So I'd like to do that one in executive session as well.
All right, let's wrap up on the update. Let's go to, we have probably had a dozen or so items in executive session. There's two on the agenda plus extras, so we'll just ask for motion to get into executive session anyway. Yeah, second line. Discussion. Okay, right. Executive session. I ask our deputy. Thank you for coming.